What it is, what it was, and what it shall be. We're teaching new dogs old tricks here in video 86. This is a redo. Some of you might notice, all 7 of you that watched the original might notice that this is a repeat. But for those that didn't, this is important. We're talking about 86. 86 is the number of Elohim. This is a plural feminine noun for God that is used in the book of Genesis in the creation account. There's important reasonings behind that. But a lot of what we're doing here, okay, let's start at the beginning. We're going to declare intent, okay? Intent here is to crush the Babylon system of enslavement that is currently afflicting the globe. And I could go all into how all these modern nations are encoding the Babylon system into their symbolism. And the EU is number one, and the Catholic Church. Those two things together are so same. And if people only understood how Christianity, Catholicism, communism, and a non-procreative castration concept are all fused, and that's the system that we're living under. That's why we're in poverty and enslavement. That's why we're in ignorance, okay? So part of clearing that up is correcting this deleterious view of a set of things that are all related. Number one is the female, okay? So our modern Babylon religions all denigrate the female. I don't think I need to explain that so much. But number one way they do that is by negating the figure of Mary Magdalene, which was an attempt by the Gnostics and these early Christians to correct the errors of this, I don't want to say patriarchal, because people have a fucked up view of that word and what it means, but this all-male trinity and this religion, right, is a corruption, okay? And we can go there's so much, there's hours and hours of material I could say about that, but I could summarize it in one phrase: robbing Peter to pay Paul, okay? Peter, we associate with the cock, right? The rooster that crows before dawn is associated with St. Peter, Apostle Peter, right? Paul is where we get the word poultry, chickens. You know, he's a bitch. He's a castrati. He's a golly, right? He's this propagator of non-procreation that we have. And when you have non-procreative priests in the Catholic Church, they start to fuck little boys. I'm sorry to say it so bluntly, but that's not unique to them. Most of the religions we have now are rife with pedophilia and perverted sexuality. And it's a predictable result of negating the feminine. So, as I've said many times, the Bible that we have is Babylon. It's all taken from Babylon. I'm going to give several really specific examples of all that. But, it's all out there for anyone who wants to go investigate whether I'm bullshitting you or not. There's plenty of evidence all about that. And, Enki and the Anunnaki and all that is a clear explanation. They have the same exact mythology. They got a tree. They got the creation of humanity out of clay in this genetic modification script that is the reason why all primates except humans have 24 pairs of chromosomes and we only have 23. It relates to why the Earth's axis is 23.5 degrees tilted. It's so deep. But today we're going to focus on this word Elohim, which totals 86. Okay? And so Elohim is a feminine plural noun. And the Elohim are the ones who create humanity, right? They say, and even in the King James corrupted Masonic butt sex Bible, they still use the plural noun in the book of Genesis. It says, "Come, let us create Adam, man, in our image and after our likeness," which means you're taking something, this tselem, right, this golem, this figure, this figurine, right, and you're resculpting it to be more similar to you, okay? In our image and after our likeness, plural feminine noun of Elohim, okay? So this is just like in Babylonian culture, they have this feminine Ninti, right, the creator of life. She genetically modifies primates and turns them into modern humans. And in doing so, creates this slave worker race, right? But there is one really good thing about Kabbalah and this system is that they describe Adam Kadmon, this primordial perfect man, right, who rivals the gods. And the angels are jealous. And the angels, some of them, the fallen ones, so-called, refuse to bow down to Adam, right? Because God is trying to get them to acknowledge that he's created something that is more perfect than them. What makes him more perfect? Willpower. Ratzon in Hebrew, willpower, okay? Whereas the angels and these angelic beings are just instruments of the divine will. They have no willpower. They just do God's will. That's all they are. They're instrumentalities. And in a way, this is what the word elohim means. It means powers of creation, creative powers, right? It comes from el, which means to twist something or to turn it around. Okay? So this is a power. It means power in one sense. Okay? So there, but creative powers in specific, like the powers of nature, like the force of the wind, right? The wind doesn't have a willpower of its own. It obeys, thermal laws of how heat and air pressure propagate, right? It goes in these pressure systems. It has a logic and a mind of its own that it obeys, right? But it doesn't have its own willpower, right? It just operating. It's like a program. It's like a computer program or a sub-process, right? So what I wanted to talk about today, okay, so I recognize a lot of what I'm saying. So everything I'm doing is a way of rebellion, okay? It's a way of going against the modern castrati narrative of, computer robosexuality and hermaphroditism that we're all in. And this is cult of Babylon. This is what's preached by the mainstream media and academia and all these Rockefeller-funded Rothschild universities and everything. It's teaching this bizarre denial of basic biology about chromosomes and how chromosomes determine gender, and like, why do I even have to spell this out? It's so self-evident and obvious. It's basic science. But yet everyone all over social media and in academia is just going to these elaborate nonsense to try and like get around all that. And it's so ridiculous and it's so sad. So what is that about? Okay. And I can see that people will hear my videos and the things that I say, and they could be like, how can you say the only purpose of sex is procreation, or that its proper purpose is that? Okay, well, I want to clarify what I'm saying. Yes, of course, that is the purpose of procreation. That's the purpose of us as physical beings, is DNA replicating itself, right? That's what we are. We're this code that unfolds in this beautiful process of development. It's always evolving. It's always mutating and changing, right? So to be clear, what I'm saying is not that all non-procreative sex is bad, okay? That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is there's two proper purposes of it, okay? One purpose is for procreation, and another purpose is for our body's energy, okay? That's what I was trying to show with this bind rune of the primal fire and the kundalini wisdom that's supposed to illuminate our third eye and the pineal gland, and how the cerebrospinal fluid in the spine is the same chemical composition as our sexual fluids, right? And it can either drain out the bottom and be excreted like a waste product, or it can go up and build the brain and bring light and energy and electricity to our brain and give us illumination and the power of prophecy. Okay, and the choice is yours. The choice is everyone's. Okay, but I'm a tantric Buddhist. Okay, I practice that faith, and that's my belief. And through experience, by practicing that, what I've learned is, if you retain your sexual fluids, okay, and you don't have so you don't have a linear orgasm, right? You don't have this orgasm where you build up, emit, and then you're done, and men like get sleepy and stuff like that. That's not how it is. It's a circuit. It's a loop, right? It's an orgasmic process that goes on and on and on for hours. And it involves like this muscle control. It involves breathing control. It involves all kinds of crazy shit. Okay? And it's not this hedonistic, like porno shit that people think at all. It's a process of illumination, and it teaches immortality and limitless life force. Okay? So you can either procreate down here this way into the four elements and into the world, or you can procreate up here and give birth to your etheric body of immortality, your astral soul that can project in lucid dream and project consciousness at will into an incarnation that isn't based on flesh, okay? And this is the story of Padmasambhava and Totring Sal, right? Totring Sal and Padmasambhava, he's having tantric sex with his consort, and they think he's a devil and a demon. They try to burn him alive. And they set this big bonfire, and he doesn't even care. He just lets them pile up the wood and set it on fire. He's like, whatever. He just keeps fucking his lady, and they just keep going on. And they set this fire, and they burn him, and it's a big, massive, huge bonfire of flames, right? And when all is said and done, and the fire and all the wood runs out, there they are. They're still fucking. And this is very Shiva Shakti. It's a similar thing. You know, they'll copulate for thousands of years without interruption. And so this is it's a metaphor, okay? And so in Tantric Buddhism, what we believe is that you can incarnate at will. And it doesn't even require, eggs and sperm. Padmasambhava means lotus born, or self-begotten lotus, right? So what that's teaching you is that what we are, our essence and our soul, is an energetic blueprint. It's a pattern. It's a vibrational pattern integrity, as Buckminster Fuller would say. It's a self-organizing negentropic concept that can propagate at will and incarnate into any of these various dimensions and plurality of worlds that are described in elaborate detail in these tantric systems. And, I don't want to go into all that too much, but what I want to do is show you how this type of non-procreative corrupted sexuality is the basis for all our enslavement. And I mean, it's really obvious that most of our economy is around frustrated sexual energy and people trying to buy products, and like appeal to other people through their products and their outer shit instead of developing inner skill, inner development, inner physical strength, energetic strength, intelligence, creativity, and so forth. That's all negated and denied in our society, and it's all about products and images and these outer things that we cover ourselves with, right? Which is the opposite of what the human purpose of real life is, to develop and to grow. Just like biological beings start off really simple as a tiny seed and they evolve and flower and grow. That's the same thing with us. We start off young and then we go through this process of development. Our intellect develops, our creative powers develop, and so forth. And theoretically, in principle, if we didn't have a Babylon system restraining us with nonsense, we would evolve and we would create a beautiful world of infinite free energy and bliss and abundance and total freedom for everybody. Okay? So one thing I said before that I want to go ahead and reiterate is how people assume that these religions are teaching this like binding like slavery to this God who has these harsh rules and everything like that. But what I'm telling you is self-discipline, self-control is what gives you power. It's what gives you freedom, right? The ability to decide and willfully choose your actions, okay? And if you're a slave of hedonism and your passions, and you're just chasing around these fleeting temporary pleasures all the time, that's the definition of slavery in my eyes. You're a slave to your passions and desires, and you have to always pursue pleasure and what you like, and you have to always avoid what you don't like. And so in that sense, you're totally unfree. You're totally enslaved, and you're a passion of false reality and these false sensory things, okay? That's the opposite of freedom. Freedom is to do as thou wilt, right? And that's a key phrase that people throw around, and it's used by all these Satanists and things, and they do not understand it. But what Crowley wrote was, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Not is, not was, shall be, okay? In the future, when you develop yourself to your highest extent, and you're capable of using your willpower and choosing wisely, things that will truly be of benefit to you and your soul's evolution and will truly be of benefit to the outer world, then once you reach that state, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, because you become a master of will, haratzon, which all these Kabbalistic rabbis are teaching you. That's Keter, that's the crown, it's the will. That's the highest, most inner aspect of all of us. And it's a long, arduous process to realize that, and it involves incredible self-discipline and negation of these fleeting hedonistic pleasures, okay? That's what I'm trying to explain to everyone. And so now I'm going to get back into this procreation concept and why I'm saying that all this non-procreative sexuality is an enslavement, okay? And we're going to go to the source of all these religions in ancient Sumeria and Babylon, okay? And we're going to look at their an account of these Anunnaki that create human beings, right? So what we call Christ is enki, okay? It's the fish god, enki. He creates, his lineage is, okay, so it goes Enki, Marduk, Nebo, right? And Nebo and they're all mercurial and they're all watery, right? So in alchemy, brute mercury is the sexual fluids, right? You got to elevate the brute mercury up the caduceus of the spine, up through the chakras, right? That's called brute mercury. But then there's like the spiritual mercury, which is pure energy that animates our nervous system and so on. But anyway, the point is these Anunnaki repeatedly were trying to cause extinctions of the human race and limit their procreation. And the flood was one such attempt, right? So Enki is the god of water and semen, right? And he protects the human race from extinction. And he tries to preserve their right to procreate and experience their highest power. Okay, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. And it doesn't necessarily mean literal physical procreation. It means to create at will. To take ourself, what's in us, and evolve it and flower it out into perfection, okay? And this is what I'm trying to say. And this is why we want to get to be more like the Elohim, these creative feminine powers that honor the female creative life force and give it praise and wisdom and serve it through righteous conduct and control and self-will. That's the lesson for today. What do you think?